This is the BMW 128Ti. It's a direct competitor for the Golf GTI. So as BMWs go, it is a little bit different because it's front wheel drive, but it's got a limited slip differential. And when I first drove the 1 Series way back in 2020, just a standard car, I was so impressed. Despite being a front wheel drive car, it was still pretty enjoyable to drive. So let's check it out in a lot of detail today. First of all, BMW LED lights on the front, air vents down here that actually go somewhere. The grille is one of those things that people are like, oh, I don't know. It's big and black and wide. It looks a bit like a Ronnie, actually. Man, the way of a Ronnie, if you haven't seen Intermission, go look it up on YouTube. Right, back around here, you get white colour-coded wing mirrors, but you can get black ones. Privacy glass on the back of the car. This big ass spoiler around the back of it, which goes down into black add-ons on the side, and more of these red air vents on the back, and 2 exhaust pipes on the back of the car. They are real, and there's a black diffuser across the back also. Do we want to see the boot? I mean, it's a hot hatch, but I'll show you the boot if you want to see the boot. Also going on here is TI decals with a red side skirt along the side of the car, and then badges on the side also. And if you get, I think it's red, that's black, and if you get, don't quote me on it, I think blue, they're black instead also. The wheels in this car, which sit in front of the M Performance red calipers, they're standard by the way, are 18-inch. They are a bit small. You can get 19s, but be very careful doing that because it's one of those cars that will just notch you or nudge you into the next VRT band if you go for 19-inch alloy wheels from the factory. So something to bear in mind. But they are a little bit small, and it probably would look an awful lot better with 19s going on. So that is the exterior. Is it as good looking as a Golf GTI? Not sure. Is it better to drive? We're going to find that question out very soon. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet on the channel, now would be a great time to do it. I actually am going to show you the boot today because, first of all, it's got stuff like 12-volt chargers and shopping hooks and that stuff, but it's also got an extra area down here for storage, hiding things. You can drop part of the floor down a bit as well, but just in terms of hiding things, it's good. And it's 380 litres in the boot, if you're counting, so good hot hatch practicality right there. In the back, good leg room, as long as you're not, I suppose, relying on people to have huge knees. If your driver and passenger seat are quite far back, you get 2 USB charging options. There's red piping all over the mats. Warn people, don't dirty my mats before you get in. Privacy glass, as I mentioned. Really, it's more of a 2-seater. Certainly for 2 child seats, you will fit them in. But again, that all-important leg room at the back for kids sitting in higher up sort of infant seats, it'll work. They can definitely kick the back of your seat when you're in the front, which, you know, as I'm sure if you're a parent, you know, drives you absolutely mad. The reason I'm talking about child seats in a car like this again, at the price of it, this one's about 55 grand. It's not really boy racer money anymore. It's kind of people that maybe have 2 kids and still want to crave a bit of fun in their life. In here is where you're really going to notice the difference over the Golf GTI. And I'm not even sorry. It is a better interior. The plastics are better quality. Even the leather's better quality. The steering wheel feels just more premium. This has a heated button on it. Armrest has TI. Still red stitching absolutely everywhere. That is absolutely the theme of it all. The 1 Series, if you haven't checked it out yet, is quite like the new G20 3 Series. So this climate display and all this kind of stuff is very much straight out of the car. Wide colour touchscreen. Get the upgraded if they don't come as standard graphics for the instruments, because you could end up with needles, and needles are not good. It just feels very premium. Your Sport, Comfort and Eco Pro modes can be accessed right here, and then you've got your shortcut and your jog wheel for your nav and all the usual stuff. So very familiar to BMW. Charging plate for your phone, a proper that style of USB charging cable here, and it's probably, you can't configure things as much as you can with the Golf. I do have to say that, but there's buttons for everything if you're a fan of buttons for changing things. Overall, I'd probably have to say this is quite a jump versus the Golf. Something else you can get on the 128 Ti is a heads-up display, which has loads of info including sat-nav. One thing that you notice straight away is as soon as you put the boot down, the steering wheel is a bit lively. Now it has got some counter-corrective thing that can steer in the opposite direction when it feels it's starting to go. I'd still be hanging on pretty tight, just to be on the safe side. So we got 265 brake horsepower, over 400 Newton meters of torque from a turbo 2-litre 4-cylinder, and remember it is front wheel drive. You can't get a manual gearbox in the car. Now this car barely has 500 kilometers on it, so it really isn't at the stage where it's remotely run in, but it's properly quick in a straight line, and you can feel that limited slip just putting all the power to whatever wheel has the most grip. And believe me, I do understand the logic of, but it's a front wheel drive BMW. I get that, but it's a cracking car to drive. Difference between this and the Golf GTI and the Club Sport is with the paddles, this will hold all the way to the red line and it won't change up for you if you're in manual mode. It'll ask you to do that, and that's one thing that the GTI suffers from. I think you can pay extra or something on the R. So it holds the gears really, really long if it thinks that you want it to. And I just think it is the rawer car out of certainly the Golf. Now it's still not a Megane RS, and what I imagine the Focus to be. I haven't driven the Focus, it was cancelled because of lockdowns, but I've obviously driven the Fiesta, and that's pretty raw. Let's just see what launch control is like. Yeah, that goes nicely. It's a claimed 6 seconds. It really does. It feels faster to that kind of seat of the pants feeling, but whether it is or not, you know, you always have to take the seat of the pants feeling with a little pinch of salt. The brakes are much bigger on this car than the standard 1 Series. Yeah, it's the slightly more wants to go compared to the Golf GTI, and it's hugging corners, and the steering is really, really direct, but the grip is the grip is very good, and you can feel the electric things doing their business, pulling the car a little bit left through that corner. Now I've got traction off to do launch control, but yeah, it's really good. It really is good. Now it still doesn't pop and bang the way so many of the French and the other hot hatches do. Like, there's a bit of growl off it, especially if you put it into sport or sport individual mode. Oh, that grip is good. That's very good. It feels quite light on its nose. Like, you can feel it shifting and doing something as you're really hoping it hangs on for a bit of grip through a corner, but in a good way, not an overpowering way necessarily. Interestingly, on these 18-inch, and they're Pilot Sports, and I believe it's a no-cost option, but you have to tick it. The ride is really good. It is not hard at all, and that's so unusual for a lot of BMWs, because you're normally dealing with run flat tires. There's a thing of gunk in the back of this. the car is all the better for it. It really is. It's going to pull about 12 litres per 100 kilometres all day long. I haven't seen it deviate too much from that. You'd probably get a bit easier if you're cruising on a motorway using the cruise control. That is just standard cruise, by the way. Then, like any good hot hatch, it will just calm down, and you can even put it into eco mode if you like. And you know, it's just a car that you can use as a daily driver, and you know, it's up to you when you want to have a bit of crack in it. So it has that split personality that all good hot hatches need. I get that it's probably still not the ultimate hot hatch for many, and that is the secret sauce of the Golf GTI, that it just has that thing that it is the ultimate hot hatch, and you'll always sell it. It always looks good. This perhaps doesn't look as good as the GTI. I have no problem conceding to that. It's maybe a bit more of a car that will split opinion down the middle, particularly with the nose of it. It's probably its weakest point. But I have to say, as a car that is meant to deliver hot hatch thrills, then I'd put this ahead of the GTI, and I'd nearly say the Club Sport. The Club Sport has more brake horsepower, I'll give you that. This doesn't necessarily feel any slower. They've just done a cracking job at making this a proper little hot hatch. And I get that there's not going to be as many of these around. I get that people, you know, they won't pay €55,000 when you can get a standard GTI for almost 10 grand less than that. The Club Sport, in fact, from Volkswagen is kind of around this price mark for this car. But this is bloody good. It's kind of a hard one to summarise because it's more like the GTI Club Sport in terms of price, but it's only really a direct competitor for the standard Golf GTI, and it is a bit dearer. It is definitely a bit more involving to drive. It's a bit rawer. I'd still love to hear pops and bangs more than you do. The fact that you can't get a manual is a bit of a shame, because it would be a cracking car to drive with a manual gearbox, but it's not going to be as common on the roads as a Golf GTI. If it was my money, I think I'd go for this. Sorry. Thank you very much for watching.